I don't get what I want, I get what I need. Every single day I'm heading off to my dream, and I get everything that I damn well please. I don't give a damn if you all listening to me, cause I run it. I'm the only one that really want it, I'm the only one that's really on it. I'm just being honest, I'm just doing everything I promise, cause I want it bad enough that I'm
Hey guys, and yes, it is here, the one I've been waiting to do, the one I thought the story through my head so many times. What if Deku had Astas powers? Meaning, Naruto, if Naruto had it, would be anti-chakra. Anti-magic for Asta. Anti-quirk, maybe, for Deku. Who knows? Let's just jump straight into it after saying the like goal for this part will be 35 likes. Oops, I just hit my hand. Ouch, sorry. And anyway, let's jump into it. At first, Deku was thought to be quirkless. As he didn't get his quirk, even after 2 weeks his due date. Like, they have an estimated date for where they're meant to awaken their quirks. And everyone else awakened their quirk exactly on the day. In his class, at least. But even after 2 weeks, Deku didn't awaken his. So, he was going to be deemed quirkless in a few days. That is until one day in school. Deku was just sitting there, and Bakugo was beginning to think how useless Deku would be. But as he was sitting there, electricity started surrounding him, and the teachers all had a sigh of relief thinking, "Wow, Deku, your quirk awakened." Deku looked up with his eyes sparkling and thinking, "Really?" But then his eyes faded into a dark green, and he just slumped his head downwards. They all were scared and said, "Deku," and then a portal opened up inside the circle of electricity. Bakugo was watching this with explosions ready, him thinking it was a villain. And then a book rose out the circle, and the portal closed. And so did the electricity, it disappeared, but the book stayed in front of Deku's. The teacher went to walk over until they saw Deku sparkle his hair, and he looked up thinking, "Wow, that was weird." They asked him what happened, and he said, "It was this book, it connected with me. This book is my quirk." And I was like, "Whoa, really?" And the book was about to fall to the floor, but before it did, Deku put his hand out, and it got encoded in a weird aura, and he moved towards him. He opened it thinking, "Wow, this is cool." It was all in a language that only Deku could read, and it's like, "What is your quirk, Deku?" And Deku puts his hand out, and a sword handle came out, and Deku pulled out a huge sword. And then all the teachers started clapping like, "That's an amazing quirk." And Bakugo smiled, thinking, "Wow, Deku isn't useless." So, Deku's mother was called, and she was so relieved when she heard Deku's quirk awakened. When she came to see it, thinking it would either be her quirk or her father's quirk, she was a bit shocked. Thought, "Wow, a mutation." They got taken to the doctors, and what they originally thought it was a mix of Mum's quirk and a mutation. Deku could use telekinesis on his book, and he evolved it maybe his sword, and also seen that he could create weapons, or at least summon them from his book, and it was also in a language that only he could read. And so they wrote it down as weapon summoning, long in brackets telekinesis. So they carried on throughout the day, and a week passed, and a new page of Deku's book, and one page was only open, and the second part of the open page unlocked. Deku read it, he was amazed, like, "Oh, what?" And he went to Bakugo. "Bakugo, can you please start using your quirk?" And Bakugo started making explosions. Deku summoned a sword and pointed towards Bakugo. He told Bakugo to launch an explosion at him. At first, Bakugo was hesitant, but Deku insisted. So Bakugo did. Deku sliced forwards, barely touching the explosion, and it got sucked up into his sword directly from Bakugo's hand. It was like, "Wow, that was cool." And Deku said to launch another one to test his theory. Bakugo tried and he couldn't. The words went through Bakugo's mind and says, "Deku, did you steal my quirk?" And Deku says, "Oh, I forgot to explain. I'm reading this book. It says that I'll be able to absorb your quirk, but you'll get it back. It just nullifies your quirk. I don't steal it. You'll get it back in around 3, 2, 1. And he says, try now. Bakugo uses explosions and he sighs with relief and says, that's an amazing quirk. And Deku says, you haven't heard the half of it. He concentrates and the explosions reappear on Deku's sword and go down it through the handle into Deku. And he starts using Bakugo's quirk. Everyone looking was like, whoa, so cool. And Bakugo's thinking, wait, what? It's like, my quirk seems to let me copy other people's quirk. Sorry about that, guys, my sister, don't be quiet. Anyway, Bakugo is jealous of this quirk. Oh yeah, let me explain. Deku's quirk lets him absorb other people's quirks and then keep them for himself. And like keep them permanently, and the other people still get their quirk. So basically you can copy their quirk. Next, Bakugo launches another explosion and Bakugo's jealous but impressed, so he keeps on helping Deku test it. On the second one, Deku just slices it, negating it. And on the third one, Deku hits it with a blank part of his sword, sending it flying back. And on the other part, Deku just stabs it with the tip of his sword, absorbing it. And then he slices the sword, letting the explosion out of the sword back at Bakugo. Deku's impressed with this, but there's a voice in his mind talking to him, trying to get his attention. He just shakes his head and ignores it. Deku tells his mum about this and she's impressed. They take him back to the doctor and they're just amazed. And they tell Inko, they examine the sword, get people to touch it and everything. And they tell them what it is. Deku's quirk is, if someone attacks him with their quirk, he can almost absorb it into his sword. And it stops a person from using their quirk for a limited amount of time. But this quirk that Deku absorbed becomes part of his own, letting him use it whenever he likes, never running out. He can also just disable the hit itself, like the attack flying at him, or he can send it back, or he can absorb it and then multiply its power and send it back. Interestingly though, if anyone else except for Izuku touches the sword, it drains their stamina rapidly, meaning if they hold it for more than, let's say, a minute, they will pass out from stamina drain. But what surprises everyone the most, if the sword's pierced your skin, or a drop of your blood is on that sword, you will not be able to use your quirk until either the sword isn't cutting you anymore. It can even be a slight graze it's cut, or unless your blood doesn't get washed off or purposely removed by the sword's owner, which we all know is Izuku, you won't be able to use your quirk. It'll be negated. And in Midoriya's just like, whoa. And then they said, we examined Midoriya's book as well. It seems like it evolves more and more, meaning there's possibilities for new weapons, new abilities. But then we did some research ourselves. The 5 clover mark is the symbol of the demon, meaning there's chance that his quirk is sentient and is mimicking a demon, but that's a very small chance, highly unlikely. Inko pushes this thought to the back of her mind, not trying to think of like the worst. It just says, so how would my Izuku become a hero? And Yusman says, he can easily become the #1 hero. He can have as many quirks as he wants, we believe. He can cancel out other quirks. He can easily stop a villain, as if he just places the flat side of his sword on the villain, it will drain their stamina. He has a very high chance to become the #1 hero, and All Might has been alerted of this, and he's actually come to visit young Midoriya. And Inko smiles, knowing this will make Izuku the happiest boy in the world. And she tells him. And then Deku tells Bakugo, and they both become super excited, them still being best friends. But Deku is also slowly starting to pile up his quirks. When All Might came to meet him, he said, hello, young Midoriya. Remember, they're still kids. And Deku's just like, oh my god, All Might. And the quirk gets explained to All Might, and All Might's just shocked, thinking, he's a perfect candidate for One For All. Maybe he could even use it without. No, that's a bit of a push. Then, All Might tells young Midoriya that when he's older, he will train him. And Deku at first smiles and says, not unless you're training Card-chan. And All Might reluctantly agrees. Bakugo and Deku just smile at each other, and they both launch off huge explosions. And All Might suddenly realizes that must be the first quirk he copied. They must have been friends. Oh. Anyway, time skip to Deku on his last day of middle school. The slime villain's attacking him. He took a shortcut away from Bakugo, who are still friends. And today is the day he was meant to start training with All Might. So All Might's actually looking for him. Deku gets attacked in the sewer, taking a shortcut. But thankfully, the slime villain didn't notice his book. And Deku's in there choking, and he launches off explosions. And he hits the slime villain with an amazing quirk. Then Deku launches huge flames, spinning around, hitting the slime villain, trying to blow him off. This shocks the slime villain, thinking 2 quirks, impressive. Then electricity appears at his eyes, and he shoots lightning bolts all around him, trying his best to escape the slime villain. And then this just shocks the slime villain. Deku thinks, damn it, I'm gonna have to. A black hole appears on Deku's finger, starting to suck up the slime villain. This is the same as 13's quirk. The slime villain jumps away from Deku, and All Might appears behind, watching to see how young Midoriya has improved. He's seen the number 2 hero's endeavor's quirk. And then the slime villain tries to run away, but wings appear on Deku's back made out of feathers, and starts stabbing parts of the slime villain, pinning them to walls. He thinks, that's the number 3 hero's quirk. Hawks. Then Deku summons his book and pulls out his sword. All Might's waiting for this. Deku unleashes the slime villain, letting it charge towards him. Deku spins and slices the slime villain down the middle, making it turn into a sludge and unconscious. Deku stabs the sword into it and thinks, cool, huh? All Might's wondering what Deku's doing, and then he sees Deku turn his hand in the same sludge and whip it round. Deku's like, that's an interesting quirk, and returns his hand to normal. All Might smiles, thinking, so he not only takes down a villain, but becomes stronger as he does it. I chose the right student. Deku turns around and the slime villain attacks him, but he doesn't worry, he could sense All Might at this point. And All Might comes out and blasts the villain away. He's like, young Midoriya, why did you let him attack you? And he's like, I could sense you. And All Might's shocked, thinking, how? And Deku just says, I have a sentry quirk, Daisy shush. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit the like goal, share with your friends and family, subscribe. And yeah, the big part 2 is coming soon, so hope you're looking forward to that. Other than that, peace out guys, bye.